Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak to your audience.
Absolutely. And so, there are a couple of different things that we'd wanted to discuss. And I know when we met before, mindset was something that really came up, and just how you were able to change your mindset on things and how that was a real game changer for you. Let's talk a little bit about before you had your change in your mindset. What was life like for you?
So honestly, through basically at a young age, I really never had a problem with mindset, and I was able to accomplish things and was somewhat successful in entrepreneurial journeys. Starting at like 14, I started a web design company, and had some success with that, and then just over time, I got more involved in other pursuits. The way I like to describe it is basically when I got my driver's license, it all went downhill from there, because it was just like, I just want to go drive. I just want to have fun. I want to go hang out with friends, anyway, over time, I'd say it was a slow transition, but life happens, and I was becoming more reactionary rather than being offensive, not in the bad way, but playing offense versus defense. And so over time, I guess my mindset just kind of eroded to the point where it was like I didn't feel like I could accomplish anything. I just, I had a job and I didn't really enjoy it. I just come home and it was just like, I just want to be done. I want to relax. It's a story a lot of people have is, they go to work, they don't enjoy it, they come home and they just want to unwind. And that doesn't get you very far in terms of progression, both personally and professionally. And so there was a shift that really, the pivot really happened when I discovered personal development and, kind of started changing my body at the same time. And it just snowballed into so many different things where I discovered the power of mindset and how I can overcome things just by changing my mindset.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go back a little bit. So knowing that, thank you for that great summary of how things developed, but just knowing, once you got into the grind, that's really what it sounded like. Once you got into the
Right.
grind, what was that like? Like, what was your grind at the time that finally had you seeking out personal development?
So I think, I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit. My parents were both entrepreneurs, but I'd had some failures in doing that. And so that kind of beat me down. And I was like, all right, well, I've got this job now. And it was at a company that I started, low level, basically doing inventory and, working in the office a little bit, started taking some sales, started doing some marketing. And I worked up to where I was number two in the company. I mean, it was a small company, but, it was still, over a period of 5 years, I'd worked my way up to as high as I could get without becoming the owner of the company. And the owner of the company and I really had differing opinions. He was a different generation. I wanted to move things more towards, where things were heading rather than where they were. And it really just got kind of depressing to, go to work every day and realize I'm going to try and implement something and it's just going to be stonewalled and we're just going to end up in fighting each other. And it really was a grind. It was not something that was very, very fun for me. And, it led to, being angry before I even stepped into work. It was like, I just know what's going to happen. And, it's that setting myself up for failure just for the fact that I went in with a bad attitude. Of course, I'm going to have a bad day if I go in with a bad attitude. And so it really was not a great experience. And fortunately, through the time I developed some skills, did some video production for this company, and was able to start doing some work outside of the business, outside the 9 to 5. And that helped me reignite that spirit again a little bit to do something else.
Mm-hmm. And what did you find that something else to be? How did you uncover what gave you life?
That's a good question. So even though I was working for a company that was in the automotive industry, and cars are really a passion of mine, as well as entrepreneurship. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to combine those two multiple times because that's just the dream. But um, anyway, it was the ability to see that I could be creative with something. With the day job, I couldn't be creative because I was towards the end, it was basically, I'm just doing enough to not get fired. That's what it came down to. Is I had the drive and motivation to change this company, and it just, after years of, look, this isn't going to work, this is the way I do it, or occasionally it'd be, okay, I'll let you run that, and then the next day pull the rug out from under me. And so I just stopped being creative with it. And then we started doing a little bit more video production, and it allowed me to be creative again. And it was like, oh, well, this is really nice to be able to create something that I can control, that I can, not have anybody else tell me whether it's right or wrong. And obviously you want to, listen to feedback, but it wasn't, shut it down immediately. It was, hey, it was constructive. Why don't you try this or do this? And it really helped ignite that spirit again, like I said, where it was allowed me to be creative and pursue my own things. And that led to, I started doing what most young videographers do, that try to make an income out of it and do weddings. And so I tried my hand at that for a little while, and had a friend helping me with that. And he ended up getting busy with another job, and then it eventually led into a partnership on a video production company where, we did high-end productions for, like state campaigns. And we did one for the Utah STEM Society, science, technology, math, all that. And even led to a point where, an odd one is, if you look me up on IMDb, I'm an executive producer on a Bigfoot documentary. Like, it was
nice. I love it.
Got to travel around and interview a bunch of people, and I walked around in the redwoods with like a several $1,000 Bigfoot costume on. It was an interesting experience, but ultimately that didn't work out because we both wanted to do the same things in the business. And that's a great learning experience. You don't partner with somebody that you both want to do the same things. And, you need somebody who needs to be the visionary, somebody who needs to figure out the back end and, making the business side work. And so that ultimately didn't work, but that was really exciting for me to be involved in a business again and, pursue other ventures.
So it sounds like that ability to just reignite that creativity, that's really what got you back into your entrepreneurial roots. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And what was that like, feeling like, hey, I still have this spark? Well, can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I had the spark, and it really feels empowering to know that you can control your own destiny. A lot of people, we've got a very heated political environment right now, and the great thing is, no matter who is elected to any office, you still have power through entrepreneurship, in my opinion, to create your own future. So yes, there's rules and regulations that specific people might implement, but you still have the power to overcome those things. And that was really, like I said, empowering to be able to see, okay, no matter what, I can create something. I can create a future that is within what I want to do. And one of those things that I want to do is, I mentioned both my parents were entrepreneurs and they did the best they can, no judgment to them, but they were always gone. They were always working on the business because that's the way they saw how they could best help the family. And good for them. They did a great job with that. However, I learned through that process, I don't want to be that way. I want to be there for my kids. I want to be there for whenever, they have a dance recital or a sports game or, a school program or whatever the case is. I want to be there for those. I don't want to be so consumed in the work that I can't be a part of my family's life. So entrepreneurship really allows that, where, if I was in a regular job, I can't usually leave, in the middle of the day to, go to an event for an hour at the school and then come back. And that was really, again, an exciting idea of, hey, I'm not stuck to this desk anymore. I can go be a part of this. And then an important thing that my wife and I talk about is the hours of like 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. are family time. Like that's when we're having dinner together. That's when we're doing everything together, working on homework, putting the kids to bed. And then after that, well, I can go back to work after that and provide the future, but I'm not sacrificing the family in the meantime.
No, I think that that's wonderful. And being an entrepreneur takes a lot of risk. I mean, I think you talked about how you tried to venture into, videography and cars and, it hasn't been successful. And for many people, taking a risk can be paralyzing. How have you managed to kind of move beyond, risk taking?
I think that's unfortunately and fortunately something that was ingrained into me from a young age. Because my wife grew up with a father who was in a risk assessment for insurance. So he was very, very conservative and, things that she could do, like
good job.
Well, so, like her elementary school was literally across the street and it wasn't a busy street. It was a narrow road. Not a lot of cars. You could easily walk across the road, and he wouldn't let her walk across the road alone. Like it was just, that's the way it was. So he was very risk adverse. And, she grew up with, you get a good job, you get a nice 401k, you get, a good insurance plan and 2 weeks of vacation. And that's it. Like that's what it was. So it's taken a lot of adjustment between my wife and I, where I'm like, I've got $50. I can go, I'm down to my last $50, whatever. Let's go start a business. It's just, it's one of those things where I'm much more apt to take the risk. And, that's where it's nice, where we can balance each other out a little bit. But it's just always been something where it's like, I see the upside. You know what? Failures happen. I consider them to be learning experiences. I'll know better the next time around. Something that I did wrong, well, I can move on to the next one and learn from that and just get better and better.
And so I was checking out your blog, and in a recent blog post, you talked about how to grow, and which was to be uncomfortable. And one section of it, I'd like to quote, and you wrote, comfort means regression and uncomfort means progression. Can you explain a little bit more about this and perhaps share an example of this in your life?
Yeah. So it's been a recent thing, honestly, within like the last 3 years, because a lot of my life, my adult life, I wanted to be comfortable, not necessarily financially. Everybody wants to be comfortable financially, but in terms of like, I just want to be laying on the couch, cuddled in a blanket, I don't want to move. I just want to be comfortable. And so I used to be fairly overweight, and I would tell people, I'd joke about it, but I'd say I overcame a lot of genetics to get this body, because most of my family is, skinny, and, that's just their body type. And to me, it was like, I don't, they're all very exercise focused. And to me, it was like, no, that's no fun. I'm just going to hang out here. I'm going to have a cheeseburger, just kick back, have some popcorn, whatever the case is. And, that led to, being very comfortable in the moment. However, I regressed in my body and my energy, in, every aspect of my life, really. And so I learned that by being comfortable now, I was regressing. And over the last 3 years, I've gotten on this personal development journey. I lost 50 pounds, and then I ended up, now loving exercise. And, I'm used to be a night owl, and now I'm up at 4:30 every morning. And, first thing I do is I work out. And so it's been a complete switch in that regard, but it's really showed me how much I can grow. I mean, the perfect example is your muscles. Your muscles, you lift heavy weights, you break them down, and they hurt afterwards. And that's showing that they're actually growing. It's uncomfortable, but that's how the muscle grows. And
it's a good pain.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's showing the progression. And that's a way that a lot of people can relate to it, but that applies to every aspect of my life. So I've been an introvert my entire life. I would stand awkwardly in the corner of a room. Small talk was the scariest thing in the world to me. Like, I'd have no problem being up on the stage. There was enough separation that, everybody is scared of staying up on the stage. So it's like, oh, if I mess up, everybody just assumes I'm one of those people that's scared of being up here on the stage. But talking one-on-one with somebody, it was terrifying to me. I was so worried about what people would think of me, of what I would say. And so I just wouldn't say anything at all. And it ended up being more awkward, because if somebody talked to me, it'd be like, I've got to go over here, and it just made it so much worse. But as I was going through this personal development journey, I was like, man, I'm just really hurting myself in doing this. I need to get uncomfortable. I need to reach out to people. I need to talk to people if I want anybody to know anything about what I'm doing, how I can help them with their problems. And with this, company that I was working on, that I'm still working on. And it's like, I can help people. So why not tell people about it and get over myself and become uncomfortable? And it's led to the point where it's like, okay, I have no problem talking to people now. And it's like, okay, I'm getting too comfortable. It's like, I need to go the next level, of somebody who I would never usually get in a room with. And I've been able to have conversations with people that I otherwise wouldn't have ever been able to, just by, finding commonality and, applying that to it in asking for a conversation, or, talking to them, or doing a little research on them before talking to them. And so it's been an incredible experience, but both physically, mentally, socially, it's like I put myself in uncomfortable situations because I find at the end of the day, it helps me grow to be a better person, to be the better version of who I'm supposed to be.
Wow. It sounds like you're coming at it from all angles.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
yes.
Well, you're not trying, you're doing. I mean, that's the big thing of it. I mean, I was, hearing you say that you were an introvert. I was like, wait, what? Introvert? Because I think a lot of people, when they think of entrepreneurs, especially, they think, oh, you have to be outgoing, you have to be the, Tony Robbins, and, going out there and just yelling at everybody on the stage. Right. And actually that's not always the case. So can you talk a little bit about how your nature of being an introvert has helped you in being an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So I think there's, like you said, there are a lot of, people out there yelling and screaming at you, and that's, that's their style, and that resonates really well with people. But, there's an audience for everybody. There's, an audience for this podcast, and there's an audience for my podcast, and they may be completely different, but, I can resonate with those people who are a little more low key. I don't yell at people. This is about as loud and as animated as I get. I move my hands a lot. I do that, but, I'm not in your face about it. And that tends to put some people at ease. Other people like the aggressiveness, and more power to them. But, I can sit back and listen and, make an informed decision just by listening to somebody, rather than just being aggressive and coming at them consistently until I get to that answer. I can be more reflective and then respond, rather than, like I said, be more aggressive and just keep guessing.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds to me like you've actually stayed really true to yourself, as opposed to trying to act like someone else, or trying to fit this, stereotype of what entrepreneurs are. Is that fair?
Yes. I mean, I've dialed it up a little bit, so I'm not so monotone, but, I am fairly true to myself in that, I'm not just going to go over the top. I can be over the top, but it's only when, the occasion calls for it, where I really feel that passionately about it. Like I might get wrapped up in, my daughter doing something in sports and get really amped up, but, that's again, true to who I am. But, I actually had a friend that was really trying to help me through some entrepreneurial struggles. And he's like, you need to be like this person, and you need to be like this person. And, that's when it really clicked. I'm like, no, like that is absolutely, I was at a point in time where I was like, okay, yeah. I get it, and then before he could finish the sentence, I'm like, no, that just, people are going to see right through that. It's so easy for people to tell your real personality online now, with how many videos people put out. You can see through the BS. It's pretty apparent. And so it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep doing things the way that I do. And if people like it, great. If they don't, great.
Where do you think that came from? That wisdom?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think so I'm the youngest of 6, and, my parents were always, traveling for work. And so I had, my next oldest sibling is a sister of mine. And so we didn't play a lot together. We fought, but we didn't play a lot together. And so I had a lot of time alone, a lot of time to be introspective. And, that led me to some not so great places mentally, but then also, I led me to places where going back to the mindset discussion, where I was able to overcome some challenges that I didn't think I was capable of doing. And that led to, the thought process of, hey, I can do these things. I can be me. And you know what, like I said, there's an audience for everyone. I have friends that, work really well with me that don't really work well with other people. So if you find your tribe, you find your group of people, and you can resonate with them.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you're speaking to about, sometimes the internal dialogue that we have with ourselves can be quite negative. What strengths do you possess that you believed helped you or allowed you to overcome this negative self-talk that you might have had with yourself?
Well, I would give you an answer if I knew the answer, because I still fight those demons every day where, we all deal with the imposter syndrome and, some of those things where it's like, all right, I am capable of doing these things. And, it probably goes back to, some of those people, like you said, like you mentioned, Tony Robbins, of, some of those people that help you understand the power of your words and the power of your thoughts. And it's really clicked when I started teaching these things to my daughter. Not necessarily out of, I really believed it. It was more of a, hey, let's try this out. You can be, I didn't think of it in this way at the time, but it's kind of like, maybe you're my little social experiment of, okay, does this really work? And it works, which is crazy, because she had and when she was in second grade, she had a math program on the computer, and she was stuck at 60% fluency in math. And she's a smart kid, she has some dyslexia, but it shouldn't have been a problem for her. It's like, all right, what's the hang up here? And, we tried different things of memorization and, how to tell the numbers the right way. And finally I'm like, all right, let's do this. Before we start this program, we're going to say, I'm awesome at math 5 times. And she's like, okay, I'm awesome at math. I'm like, no, you need to believe it. I'm awesome at math. And, she got amped and got excited about it. And within a couple of weeks, she was at 100%. Like, it was just, as I watched that, I was like, oh, wow, this is okay. I need to really dial this in for me, because nothing changed other than, every time and it happened also when we didn't say it, she struggled a little bit more. And it was just allowing herself to feel like she was as good as she is really capable of, but, allowing herself to feel that way made her capable of doing it. And so it's like, all right, I need to start having these positive affirmations. I need to start, telling myself these things that I am capable of. And you know what, I start accomplishing them. And so that's been really powerful over the last couple of years in working with my business and working with my kids and relationship, everything. Having a positive self-talk makes a huge difference in your life, because we have so many negative thoughts that go through our head. And those can really drag you down.
And I believe that when we talked before we started recording, you'd mentioned that you actually had a similar experience yourself with one of the workout routines that you were trying to do. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So for those people that are aware, there's a gentleman who is, well known in entrepreneurial circles, not quite akin to Tony Robbins, because has his specific audience. His name's Andy Frisella. He is a very alpha male, very aggressive, in your face personality. And you know what? He doesn't resonate with me most of the time, but every once in a while, when I'm not living up to my potential, he's the kick in the rear that I need. And so anyway, he came up with this program called 75 Hard, where it's 75 days straight of 2 45-minute workouts. One of them has to be outdoors, a gallon of water, 10 pages of a self-development book every day. I know I'm forgetting some other things, but progress picture every day. And he calls it a mental toughness challenge. So there is a lot of physical transformation in the process, but it is definitely a mental toughness challenge, as I found out, because I did it, starting in February. And, we had lockdowns happen. We had an earthquake here in Utah, and had my dog of 12 years pass away while my wife was out of town. And I still had to, get an outdoor workout in after being at the vet hospital all day. And so I stuck a phone in my kids' room on speaker so I could hear them, and put an earbud in, and basically ran around my house in the yard for 45 minutes. Like it was it's those things where it's like, there's no way I can do this. And then you do it. And it was crazy, but I tried to do this a couple of times prior. And I didn't complete it. The furthest I made it was like 34 days. And every time that I tried it before, I told myself, I'm going to try this. And that was, a limiting thing, because I said I was going to try it. Well, when I went to do it, and I'm like, all right, I need to tell myself I'm going to accomplish this. I'm not giving myself any outs. I'm not giving myself any other options. I'm going to do it. And I did. And I was able to accomplish it. And they have different phases afterwards. And right now I'm on like day 25 of phase 1, where they throw in a 5-minute cold shower every day, 10 minutes of dedicated visualization. And I mean, different things that they throw in there. And the cold shower thing was another thing where it's like, there's no way I'm going to be able to. And I mean, like full cold, like, yeah. Anyway, I know everybody.
Isn't it about to snow in Utah? I mean, no.
Surprisingly, it was 80 degrees today. However, nice. On Sunday, it's going to be cold and rainy. But yeah, anyway, it was one of those things where it was like, I can't do this, because cold water and me, we don't mix well. And again, it was one of those mindset things where it was like, all right, I tried it again a couple of times, and I'm like, no, I can't do this. And then I'm like, no, let's try this again. Like, I'm going to do this. And it's really been not a problem at all for me. Like, it's, like I said, we're 25 days in, and it hasn't been a problem. That's been honestly one of the least of the problems of trying to complete all these tasks every day. So.
Wow. That goes into not only mindset, but it comes back to that consistent action that you're talking about. Like, how has that helped with your business?
I apologize. I feel like I'm being long-winded here.
No, not at all.
No, that the power of consistent action is something that has been a revelation to me too, in that, when I had, like I mentioned before, I had a web design business at 14, and then I started doing vending machines. I had a parts distribution company, like all this through high school. And I just didn't put in the consistent action, and things eventually just didn't happen. And every time I put in consistent action, things worked. But at the time, it was like, it was the timing, or whatever the case is. And whenever I'd start a new company, I'd do something for a few weeks of being consistent, and then something would happen, and like, I'll get to that tomorrow, and then I didn't. And, part of this phase 1 is you have to do 8, what he calls power list items. So basically 8 things that will move your business forward every single day. And you can't go to sleep until you complete them. And in that process, I've accomplished more in the last 25 days in my business than I had in, the month prior, or even 2-3 months prior. It's the consistent action and not allowing it to get to the next day, because I do that all the time in my own business. It's like, I have things come up, I have calls come up, and, fires I have to put out, and it's like, I can do that tomorrow. And that just delays when that's going to get done. And it ends up being a snowball effect, or, if you're familiar with the book, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, it's all these little actions will add up. Or another one I like, Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's all about doing these little habits, consistent action will eventually compound to skyrocket. And it's one of those things where I'm starting to see the dividends of that consistent action over, the last couple of years. It hasn't been always as consistent as it has been for the last year, but it's, starting to show those fruits. And just thinking, if I didn't put those things on my to-do list and then have to complete them that day, it would be completely different. Even on vacation, I went on vacation with my family last week, and, I spent all the waking hours with my family and kids and all that, but I'd wake up again, 4:30 in the morning, work on whatever I needed to do. And then also again, after the kids went to bed, it was just a matter of, staying consistent, staying persistent, because, there's a lot of things that can bring you down if you don't stay persistent and you don't ever reap those rewards.
Yeah. And you had, in one of the podcasts that you were on, you had talked about it's not even just about consistent action, right? There's, sometimes people are like, okay, I'm going to quit smoking, or, there's certain habits that they want to create, but you also talked about how consistent action and passion go together.
Right.
And so have you found your passion? If so, what is it?
Yeah. So again, with some of these previous businesses I worked on, they were more of, chasing the money. Mm-hmm. It wasn't necessarily, I tried to marry entrepreneurship and automotive a couple of different times, but again, it was, the basis behind it was, I enjoy this. It'll help me make some money. Well, with my current venture, honestly, the money isn't a factor. It is a brand basically designed to help people who are stuck in a 9-to-5 that hate it and want to create an impact in this world. And to me, the best way to create an impact is through entrepreneurship, because, in a typical 9-to-5 job, if you go above and beyond, you're impacting the bottom line of somebody up above you. You're helping somebody above you advance their career. And, eventually you can climb corporate ladder and whatnot. But again, even if you're on a software development team of, an app that's going to change the world, your impact is minimal because you were just a small piece in that. Whereas through entrepreneurship, I can directly impact, 5 people today, and, I can directly impact 100 people tomorrow, and directly impact, I can get my message out there directly to the audience that needs it. And to me, that is something that is so powerful. And I want other people to be able to experience that as well, because that's the situation I was in. I was in a 9-to-5. I hated it. I wanted to get out. I wanted to do an entrepreneur, something entrepreneurial. And fortunately, through my previous experiences, it was easy for me in the fact that, it's easy to start an LLC. It's easy to do this. It's easy to set up a bank account for the business. It's easy to do QuickBooks. And it's just prior experience. But then I would talk to these people, years ago, friends that were starting businesses, and they're like, I'm terrified. I don't know how to start an LLC. Like, I'm going to hire a lawyer to do that or something. And there's definitely a time and place for that. But
no worries,
at the same time, it's like, yeah, don't mean to insult your profession. But it's so easy to do online now. It's like, I can walk you through this in 30 minutes. Like, this is not a big deal. And people get so petrified by these little things. It's like, I want to help people get out of this mindset of, one day I'll do that. One day I'll accomplish this. It's like, no, if you want to create the impact, I will help you create that impact. Like, let's get you started through this entrepreneurial journey. And to me, that is so fulfilling to watch people go through this process and to, help others with their small businesses. And it eventually led to a product that, you know, it basically through my own experience where I was, you know, I have a job, I come home, I have a wife, I have 3 kids, you know, there's a lot of obligations there. I have community obligations, social obligations. And then it finally settles down. And it's like, I need to work on my side hustle, but at the same time, you know, I'm tired. I don't have the focus, you know, I have the want, but it's really difficult to overcome all this energy that I've lost throughout the day. And, if I have, you know, some caffeine, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. And it's going to throw off everything tomorrow. It's going to set me back. And so I ended up developing a product that, you know, is designed to help you focus, but it does so without caffeine. And, you know, it was born out of that, you know, me being in that situation, seeing that need for me. And it's something that, you know, I just recently brought to the market like a month ago, but that's, you know, one pillar of it, obviously, but obviously I want to work more hands-on with people through group and one-on-one, you know, trying to get people to create that impact and see their impact being made. Like you can watch that impact literally in front of you being made by, you know, whatever entrepreneurial journey you take, whether it's, you know, handmade crafts or something. You can see the light in somebody's eyes as they pick up their product, or, you know, whether you're making, say, industrial cooking equipment or something. Again, you can see how that impacts that individual because their processes improve, their speed improves. So, you know, it's very rewarding to see people create that impact. And that's what drives me, even on the days when I'm not wanting to put the work in, when I just want to sit back and relax. It's like, no, I need to help those people see that impact. And that's bigger than me. That's bigger than $1. You know what? I need to get my butt in gear and I need to do this.
Trent, I love hearing you talk because you really do have so much passion about this and with helping people. But I know that there's going to be people out there that are going to be like, he just has so much energy and he does all these things and he's accomplishing these really big goals. Like where could I start? And so what do you say to those people where they're maybe not going to look up, you know, Frizzelli and look at his plans. They're not going to go down that road. And, you know, you're very passionate, but what's something small that people can do to just help them start seeing some of these benefits and changes that you're talking about?
It goes back to the mindset. I mean, start changing that idea of, oh, I can't do this, or I don't have the energy to do this, or I don't have the know-how to do this. Start changing that to, I can figure this out. You know, something where you change it to a positive rather than a negative, and that can plant those seeds where, you know, I can start working towards this. You know, I can do 5 minutes. You know, I can write something down for 5 minutes. A lot of people like to block out huge chunks of time. I honestly don't have the capacity to do that usually. Like I literally will segment my schedule sometimes in 5 and 10 minute blocks because that's all I can focus on for that short amount of time. But for something, say, I really don't want to do, like I'm not one who likes to write. That's just not a strong suit of mine, but I will. It's like, okay, I need to write this for 5 minutes and I will do that. And then as you get used to 5 minutes, okay, it's now 10 minutes. I can do 10 minutes. I've been doing 10 minutes for a while. I can do 15 minutes and just, you know, it snowballs. It eventually gets to the point where it's like, I can sit down and write for an hour now, but it all starts with I can rather than I can't.
I like that. And so for our listeners, your new business is called Hustle Energy. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so I was actually reading one of your blog posts where you were talking about this new product, this new non-caffeinated energy drink. And what I loved about it was how you were talking about how you had spent like 3 years developing this product, yet you only celebrated, just recently, because you didn't have a quote unquote finished project, but really, you should have been celebrating. I think you talked about, even celebrating for 5 minutes, if that's all the time that you have. I really enjoyed that. So how have you celebrated, the launch of this new product?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think of something specific. I think when it did launch, I went out to dinner with my wife, without kids, that's a big deal. So it was nice to be able to do that. And it's, a minor thing, because to me, I'm just getting started. Like, this is, even though it took basically 3 years of almost full-time work on this, met with so many setbacks. Like, I spent a year on a project that lost money, that never came to fruition. And honestly, at that point in time, it was pretty down on the whole thing. And, I had to get back into, why am I doing this? But with its current iteration, like, I went through 4 or 5 trial production runs where, things just got thrown off and we had to start from scratch again. And it was just, had to stay persistent. But then at the same time, it's like, this is just one small part of it. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, I need to celebrate that this is out now, but it's just getting started. There's more products in the pipeline. There's more services in the pipeline. There's other things I need to do. And there's not a lot of time to, sit back and enjoy it. I've got to keep going. And, you hear from a lot of really successful entrepreneurs, they love the process. It's not about the end goal. It's always about keep moving, always progressing. And that's where you get the excitement. And honestly, that's the same with me, is like, yes, the product's out. Whew, this is nice. Okay, I need to keep going. I need to work on this. And it's like, it's really fun to me to, be working on building something bigger than me.
No, I love that, because oftentimes on the show, we talk about how sometimes we don't take time to celebrate until we've reached that goal. But what you're sharing here, it's the process. It's all these milestones that you've crossed along the way that allows you to celebrate. Because I think in your blog post, you talked about that if you continue to go on without celebrating, it'll eventually lead to burnout.
It will. Yeah. And so sometimes I have to force myself to celebrate those little wins, because like I said, I do really enjoy the process. But, there was a point in time where it was like I was trying to work with a specific individual, very high profile individual, and it wasn't necessarily directly related to what I was doing, but I'm like, I need to work with this individual. I really resonate with them, and it could potentially open up doors. And I was able to get a meeting with them, and it led to more conversations with them and all these things. That was like, again, I didn't think I was going to be able to do that. And there was a point in time where it was like, right, I need to celebrate this a little. So it was like, I allowed myself to like get amped up and, throw a fist in the air and get excited. And then it's like, okay, got to keep working at this. But I mean, even if it's just one of those little things where you get excited for a couple minutes, I mean, you got to be able to celebrate those things, or else it's just, like I said, it leads to burnout, because I've done it to myself before, where it's like, okay, yeah, that was great, but let's keep going. And if you never celebrate, then you never get excited. But to me, it's very minor. If you spend too long celebrating, you get off track and you fall behind. So.
Yeah. Well, what I love about what you're saying here is, even just taking that moment to, pump your fist or whatever, you're not talking about this big elaborate plan that, the only way to celebrate is by popping bottles and, going crazy on the town. Like, that's not what it is. It's really just taking that moment to pause, whatever that is, and acknowledge that. And even if it is just a couple minutes, it's like, wow, I did that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then you're ready to go on to the next step. That's awesome.
And it goes back to that, mindset thing of, I'm going to set out to do this. And when you accomplish it, it's like, oh, wow, it works. You have to pause to be able to, allow yourself to understand that what you just did, what you set out to do actually worked. So it gives you the fuel and energy to do the next thing.
That's awesome.
That's great. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and ask you our signature questions. Reflecting back, what would you tell your younger self? Keep going.
That is something that I've learned a lot through persistence. And, if you look at my trajectory of where I was at 14 and what I was accomplished at that point in time, you would think I would be in a lot different place. And I'm not saying I'm unsuccessful. I've got a great life, great family. I don't regret any of that. But at the same time, you would expect me, based on that trajectory, to be somewhere else. But I wasn't persistent. I wasn't taking those consistent actions, and I regressed a ton. If I would have just kept going, kept my head down, I would have accomplished a lot more by this point in my life.
Awesome. So looking forward, what is one wish that you have for yourself, or perhaps Hustle Energy moving forward?
For myself, I definitely want to, grow the business side of things, but not lose sight of how important the family aspect is. So I want to be able to keep this going. Like today, I blocked out time in my calendar so I could ride my bike up to my daughter's school, because I ride, on days where it's nice enough weather, I'll ride my bike to school with my daughter. And she always wants me to pick her up. So I ride my bike back to the school and then ride back home with her. And, those days aren't going to last forever. I mean, she's in 3rd grade right now. And it's going to be one of those days where it's one day she's going to be like, Dad, you stay home. And it's like, I want to cherish those moments and not push those off, and be like, I'm really busy. I'm really focused on this. We'll do it tomorrow, because I did that last year and we never rode bikes to school. It was like, this year I need to really be focused on this. And, we've probably ridden bikes to school maybe 80% of the days. And every day it's like, I've got to block off time to make sure I'm there. And I was late one time. She was still undoing her bike lock. So I wasn't
so you weren't in trouble.
Late.
Yeah.
I was in serious trouble. She still brings it up. She's like, now when I drop her off at school, now Dad, don't be 1,000 minutes late today. All right. Like you were that one time. And kids remember those things when you don't show up. Mm-hmm. So I want to be there and still show up for my kids, even while building a business. And, I want to prove that is possible, that you can still, have your cake and eat it too,
You can learn more about Trent Bray and Hustle Energy at hustle.energy. What has consistent action allowed you to achieve? Head over to our Facebook community where you can discuss this episode and share your thoughts. We want to thank our producer and music director, Ron Johnson. This has been an Astronomicus DMR production. Thank you for listening. Remember, it's never too late and you're right on time.